you've been a fan of a long-running franchise for a while, you do often get asked a few questions. And one of the most likely asked questions would be, what was your first episode of the show? For some younger viewers of Doctor Who, it would either be when the show came back in 2005, or for some it's during the Moffat or Chibnall era. For me, there were actually 2 episodes. One was The Long Game, which I'll get into later, and the other was our next offender, Dalek. I remember seeing the BBC One teaser trailer, and all it had shown was the Pepper Pot in chains screaming. That image stuck with me for a while, but it wasn't until I came into the room to see my parents watching the episode. All I saw were these 2 human characters running down a corridor with a full cage door closing down. The girl is trapped on the other side, and there I saw the exact same machine slowly coming up the corridor. I remember thinking, oh my god, it's that thing from that trailer! This must be that show! Eagerly I sat down to watch the rest of the episode, and then a few days later I saw a repeat of it, and watched it all the way through. And each time I watched it since, I never got bored of it, even today, but I'm getting ahead of myself. What's the story? The Doctor and Rose Tyler answer a distress call coming from an alien museum in the year of 2012. After meeting the head of the museum, Henry Van Statten, played by Corey Johnson, the Doctor discovers that the signal is coming from the museum's newest addition, which turns out to be a lone Dalek, a menacing mutated being inside a tank machine voiced by Nicholas Briggs. It turns out this is the only surviving Dalek after the Time War. Of course, it's not long until the Dalek is released and goes out on an exterminating rampage, with the Doctor trying to do whatever it takes to destroy the Dalek before it gets a chance to step outside into the world. Now, this is a really tough task to handle when it comes to not only bringing back an old classic enemy, but you would have to be able to evolve it in the modern era. And yet, Russell T Davies, the genius that he is, did manage to pull it off. Even the writer Robert Sherman, who actually wrote the original story for the Big Finish audio, Jubilee, did manage to evolve the story in a visual form. But both writers had to make the Daleks menacing in their official return to the show. Especially since in years before 2005, Daleks were kind of made fun of due to their postures and the inability to go upstairs. And by God, did they succeed with flying colours. I guess I cannot start the episode without, of course, talking about the Dalek itself. I love how this thing is designed. Much like the TARDIS, these metal beings are just as much as a staple to the show. In fact, a bystander can look at a road sign with a symbol of a Dalek and know there is something Doctor Who related. But even the materials used to make it is just... oh my god, it's so beautiful to look at. This isn't just a robot killing machine, it's a giant tank with an alien being inside controlling it to kill. And with a new revived look to it, since the plastic wooden designs, this is a breathtakingly gorgeous visual, from the bronze metal housing, with a blue light for its eye stalk, and even something like a sucker, which people talked about being irrelevant, is now used as a slow yet torturous weapon. One detail I actually quite like, which I don't think a lot of people have pointed out, are these little dog tags underneath the eye stalk, which I interpret as a rank position in the army. I love how this thing is shot, from the still camera wide angles, the point of view shots through the eye stalk, and even when it hovers around in the room full of soldiers, all shot from a low high angle. It's astonishing to look at. The sound design, perfect. When the Dalek moves around, it gives off this smooth, quiet whirring noise, almost as if it's gliding in thin air. And the action? Oh my god, the action. I remember getting butterflies in my stomach watching the action scenes, the laser sound mixed with the change of color filters when the victim gets killed. It's a nice callback to Genesis of the Daleks, with the addition of a skeleton appear over the victim's body. It's haunting to the eye, and I love it. Even scenes where you don't actually see the Dalek, like the Doctor being trapped in the room is listening through an intercom, or Rose and Adam running down the corridors, the sound design gives off more goosebumps. From the echoing sound of gunshots, the Daleks screaming exterminate, to finish off with utter silence. And of course, Nicholas Briggs is just perfect for the role. Sure, most of the dialogue is done through a ring modulator, but you can really feel the tone going off through the Dalek's voice, whether he's in pain, screaming with anger, being manipulative towards Rose, downright sarcastic and sassy towards the Doctor, struggling to breathe whilst mutating, and yet soft-spoken when it asks for freedom. You can easily see through this episode why this is one of the greatest, in fact, the greatest villain in the show's history. The episode is considered to feature the best of Eccleston's acting as the Ninth Doctor, and I couldn't agree more. This episode features a mixture of emotions for the Doctor. He does the usual spring in his step attitude when he arrives, with a brief moment of remembrance when he finds the Cyberman head, which is a nice touch of fan service. But then the Dalek comes in and he has a wide range of emotions: fear, anger, regret, frustration, vengeance, guilt, and relief. We also learn more about the time war between these two characters. Both of these are lost, broken souls who have survived a bloodbath, and both have now become twisted beings, believing they have nothing left to live for. The Doctor, being the one who ended the war, now walks believing he has officially won, but when he finds that one of them has survived, he is both afraid and angry at the same time. I remember watching the episode for the first time, thinking that the Dalek was the good guy and the Doctor was the enemy, only to discover it's the other way around. But I always loved the fact that both of your main characters could go either way. Oh, it's good stuff! Now, you could make the argument that the story's moral does not work with the Daleks, since the Daleks are not meant to feel any humanity. But again, through the perspective of Rose, the audience, or in this case newcomers, get to see what the Dalek is like through both sides. Also, this is a Dalek who was badly broken down, given a chance to mutate itself by Rose, and in doing so is slowly mutating and evolving into something unknown, and it's too much for the Dalek to handle. We see both how terrifying these machines can be, but we also worry of what would happen if these beings were to have humanity given to them. If I did have one nitpick, it would be that the supporting cast are a little standard. You have Van Staten being the money-wanting businessman who plays around with the alien tech like toys, Diana Goddard being the smart yet sarcastic secretary-type character, and Adam Mitchell being the young Gizmo kid. And that's not to say these were boring characters. Well, with some exceptions, they are justified through the actors' performances. I did like the scenes with them, and to be fair, these are kind of the right characters you need for this Dalek story. At least they do not take center of the majority of the episodes. The makers did know to keep the focus on the Dalek. What more can I say about this episode? You've all heard what everyone else has to say, it's just great. In fact, this is the story where everything changes for the show. The stories began to be more mature and complex, and we have Dalek to thank for that. It is easily one of the best episodes of the show's history. The writing, brilliant. The acting, amazing. The visuals and action, breathtaking. Even the music by Murray Gold, glorious! If there was ever an episode I had to start off with, I am so glad that my love for the show started with this one. It's literally held a place in my heart, which I do share with a later story, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. What more do I have to say? Just go and see it. Go! Go see it! Go! Go! Go!